take an excerpt from Beyond Clouds, a spiritual seeker. Who is a spiritual seeker and what he has to be aware of. The basic problem before a spiritual seeker is not how to know, but how to be. To know is the dimension of the mind, and to be is the dimension of meditation. Meditation is the bridge that connects your outer to the inner. It connects your ephemeral, the body, the mind, the emotions, to that which is unborn, that which is beyond death, the being, innerness. I have heard there was a place in India where they had 365 days satsang, meditation sessions. People have become habitual. It was a pastime. Every evening, just as you turn on television, they will go to that satsang. A great sage was giving his discourse, but people were sitting there mechanically, not paying much attention. There was not much devotion. Suddenly, everyone noticed a stunning beauty walked in, wrapped in deep devotion. A stunning beauty. You cannot imagine, beyond imagination. The discourse was going on. Everybody's attention was on that stunningly beautiful lady. Sat down, she came, walked through the crowd, came in front, sit down almost in front. Everybody's eyes were fixed on her. No one could remove the gaze from her. No one could avoid looking at that stunning beauty. But she was in rapt devotion, unaware of what people were doing. All of a sudden, a fly came near her ears, and then gone. People said, "Oh, what a beautiful ears she has. I wonder if the fly will sit on her ears." Everybody was thinking that way. Then again, this is how fly goes. The fly came by her nose. Oh, what a perfect nose. People thought, if she will sit, the fly will sit by her nose. Fly came, buzzing, then zoom, gone somewhere else. Gone somewhere else. Again people wondered. Then the fly came back again. And this time she hovered around her forehead. Oh, what a beautiful forehead, a broad forehead. And look at her complexion. And the fly hovered for a little while, then zoom, gone. Then again people wondered what it is going on, and everybody's attention was on that stunning beauty and what the fly was doing and where the fly will sit. Everybody was wondering. Then again fly came, and then this time she hovered around her upper arm. Oh, what a shapely upper arm she has. I have never seen such a shapely upper arm. And then flies continues hovering. Then zoom, gone. A few minutes after, the fly came back again. This time she hovered her around her forearm. Again everybody wondered, oh, what a beautiful forearm she has. I wonder if the fly will sit there. She did not sit by the ears, by the eyes, by the forehead, by the face. Will she sit by this thing? Everybody wondering, the fly continued doing, and then plum, zoom, and gone. Again there was a little quiet for a little while. Then again the fly came. This time she hovered around her thumb. And people wondered if the fly will sit down. She leave the beautiful face. She leave the glaring eyes, the forearm, the upper arm, the ears, and near her thumb there was a little boil, and that boil was, the wound was open, there were pus was oozing out, and ultimately the fly that came hovered all around and around and around and then sat down on that stone. What this has to do with meditation? The fly represents the human mind. Many beautiful things are there. The mind will always wander about something which is not beautiful. Mind will always wander about that which is garbage. Wonder about why these people are talking bad about me. What did I do wrong? Why they have to talk bad about me? Why people involved in all these kind of things? This is the nature of the mind. Mind always looks for the garbage. Mind always looks at the garbage bin. All that is nonsensical, all that is useless, all that is not elevating. Mind is like a fly, always hovering, and whenever there is messages, beautiful things, mind finds it boring and is never interested in those things. You look at the meditation videos, how many people are watching that? But if there is a video of Marilyn Monroe or someone else, you see the viewers zoom like anything. This is the problem with the spiritual seeker. He has to be aware of this fly-like attitude of the mind. Knowing is not the problem. Knowing is the way of the mind. You can gather the information. It is very easy. The real problem is how to be, how the being should be strengthened. How should you establish the communion, the bridge between your emotions and feelings and the silence? Because all around that is there, that is the abode of sorrow, and everything moves in a cycle. Sorrow comes followed by happiness. Autumn comes followed by winter. Winter comes, winter is followed by spring. Spring is followed by summer. Everything is cyclical, not in a linear way. Everything moves in that way. This is why it is said, this world is nothing else but a place of sorrow. It's a cycle. Sorrow comes, happiness is followed. all that you think brings happiness in you is the cause of sorrow. It is very hot. You are very thirsty. You go to a shop, you get a bottle of Coke. Oh wow, that's cooling. Slowly and slowly you take this sip, you finish it out. When you finish, you throw it in the garbage. That which was all for you a moment ago has become a garbage now. You have to throw it. This is how the world goes. And you know your heartbeat is also the same thing. Says the same thing. Duk suk, duk suk, duk duk suk, duk suk, duk suk, duk suk, duk 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 suk, duk suk, duk suk. Duk. Sorrow. Hindi word. Duk. Suk. Happiness. Suk. The heartbeat constantly reminds you that there is a cycle of this. Duk suk, duk suk, duk suk, duk suk, duk 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 duk. That is how the heartbeat goes on. Are we aware of this? That's a constant message, a reminder is coming to us. That which was the center of your attraction, one without whom sun never rose, never set in your life. And now things have changed. That person does not create any more ripples in you. And it is said, the most agony person is the one whom you love the most. The person whom you love the most gives you most painful moments. And yet still we remain in that. Yet still we do not become aware of this world, the visible realm, the realm of duality, where everything is dualistic. One leads to the other and the cycle continues. How to get out this cycle of dukh, sukh, happiness, sorrow, sorrow, happiness, sorrow, happiness. The autumn, winter, summer. Why can't there be autumn, the spring always coming into you? Every moment is a new flower blossom. Every circumstance and situation gives you an indication of flowering of something new in you. First, one flower blossoms, gives you the indication the season of spring has come. And then many flowers blossom. It is not that spring that you see that comes for 3 months and then gone forever. The spiritual spring, once it comes, never goes. Once you experience the blissfulness, it never gets less. It continues. The season of spring has come. Enlightenment is the season of springs. Then you are beyond sorrows and happiness, pain and pleasure, good and bad. You are beyond everything. You live in your own realm, sharing your presence, sharing your being, sharing your light, sharing your fragrance. This is why the seeker faces a dilemma. The real problem is how to be, how the being should be strengthened. To be is very difficult, and this is a real inner search for a seeker. Knowing can grow easily. These days you have internet, and through internet your knowing can multiply million folds. Knowing has its own way of growing. Knowing is a parasitic growth, not the real one, because it is dependent on the other. Your happiness, your bliss is not parasitic. It is not dependent on anyone. You are not happy because your son has done something, your husband done something, your wife has done something for you, or she brought some flowers, or she remembered your birthday. No. This is not the real happiness. This is parasitic growth. You are dependent like a little child on everything. When a child is small, all the time holding on to the mother, mummy, mummy, saying all the time. Mummy says, why can't you go and play outside and leave me alone to do my work? Slowly and slowly the child learns. The child's happiness centers around the mother. Your happiness centers around your wife or husband or your spouse. Then that little child grows up into a grown-up person. And of course the mother grows old. Now the mother says, son, come and sit down sometimes by me. I feel lonely. And now it is the turn for the son to say, mother, why don't you leave me? I want to be alone by myself. I want to do the things. Why you don't get yourself engaged in something or the other? The cycle goes on. Mind's realm is parasitic. It is dependent on the other. You have not learned the art of being alone all by yourself. That is not loneliness. Loneliness is negative, aloneness is positive. To be belongs to the realm of aloneness. You are all alone by yourself, doing nothing, and yet still you are blissful. In the realm of the mind, you are parasitic. Your happiness depends on your phone calls, on the food that you eat, on your television shows, on the books that you read. You cannot remain even for a few moments to enjoy your aloneness, because that brings fear. That brings a nagging silence. So you come to eat food, the plate in one hand, you take out the food, with the other hand immediately looks for the control of the television. Look, the television is on, the program is going on. You are feeding yourself all that is going on the television because you are not aware. You are not aware that you are eating food. Food is going into you mechanically. Because between the food and the television show, what is more important? The scene that is going on the television. A particular show, a particular news bulletin. That is more important to you. And that is what finds the center of attraction and goes within you. You eat mechanically. Then that's how the life goes on. The real problem for a spiritual seeker is how to be alone. And grass grows by itself. Knowing grows in the memory, and memory is just mechanical. That is why we now have mechanical devices which can be fed with memory. We have computers, and a computer is more efficient than a human brain because it does not have any inertia of its own unless and until it starts malfunctioning. A switch is there put on. All those people in different countries are together listening to the broadcast, live stream, and everyone is hearing. If it is a video streaming, everyone is watching and hearing. This is a great invention. What we should use it for? For propagating the innerness, propagating the messages of the masters. A computer can do anything that a human brain can do, and computer can do many more things which a human brain cannot do, and also more efficiently. Sooner or later, memory is going to be replaced by a mechanical device. A mechanical device can do whatsoever your mind is doing, and it will do it more efficiently and in less time. Computer can do a mathematical problem in seconds for which you would need an Albert Einstein or a person of the caliber of Einstein to work on for at least 3 months. Mind is just a mechanical device. It can grow. You can go on feeding it with knowledge and information, and then it can grow. Only then it can grow, when you feed it. The moment you stop feeding the mind, it becomes restless. And being does not need any feeding. Being is self-propagating. Mind is just a mechanical device. It can grow. You go on feeding it with knowledge and information, and then it can grow. You may not be aware of it, but nothing comes out of your mind which has not been put in it before. Whatsoever has been recorded in the mind, consciously or unconsciously, is broadcast. Many times when you are angry or there is a brawl begins between the spouses, many things emerge from the memory which were not caused for. All that has been put into the system as a process of our day-to-day life, and these have been put into that automatically, unconsciously. Nothing comes out of your mind which is original. In that way, nothing is original as far as mind is concerned. Everything is just a repetition. Each time when a brawl begins between the two people, it is the same thing over and over being repeated again and again. Nothing new happens. You do not get angry in a new way. Have you ever tried getting angry or entering the brawl in a new way, more innovative way? I have heard one day Mullah Nasruddin decided that he is going to do a new fashion. So that time he used to have a new girlfriend. So he told his girlfriend that he will do a new fashion. So what he did, he put on his jacket, but instead of having the button in the usual place in front, he put the jacket the other way around. The buttons came at the back. And that time Mullah Nasruddin has newly bought a motorbike. So he has his newly made up trouser and the jacket with the buttons at the back. You know, it's a new fashion, something new Mullah is trying now. And he went by his girlfriend. He said, "Let me take you on a ride." So he takes Mullah takes the girlfriend on the ride, goes driving. All of a sudden, he's engaged in his talks. All of a sudden, he sees two lights blazing, glaring lights coming in front of him, moving with a great speed. Told his spouse, "Look at this, two motorbikes riding at the same speed. Two motorbikes riding at the same speed. None of the motorcycle is going faster than the other, same speed. What a experienced drivers. I will drive through between them." What is going to happen? That was not two motorbikes, instead that was the headlights of a car coming. Naturally the car cannot drive. The left headlight will drive at a different speed than the right? No. It is part of one harmony. Plum, mullah dashes the car. Accident. Two mullah and his girlfriend fell from the motorbike. Crowd gathered. They saw everything is okay. Mullah's spouse is good. Nothing is wrong. She just get a minor bruise. The motorbike is okay. People said something gone wrong with this man, mullah. Looked like his neck turned. You know the neck supposed to be, your face supposed to be facing the buttons on the same side. But his buttons of the jacket, purposely to show a new fashion, he did it. Not in front but at the back. He said looked like his neck turned. So they held on his neck and tried to twist it to bring it into the shape. He said looked like his neck get a sprain, and because of that it turned from the back to the front, from the front to the back. That is how he is looking like that. Otherwise, who puts on the jacket like that? And then nobody could ever imagine that a person like mullah will put on that. This is the nature of the mind. Mind is almost a repetitive mechanism. You have to feed it, give it something, and then it will reproduce it. Not a single thought comes to you that is your own. It has been given to you by society, education, the study, but always it has been given to you by someone. At the most you can make new combinations. That is all. That is through permutation and combination you can put this and this together and make a new thought and call it as your own thought. Nothing more can be done with the mind. This is one growth, parasitic growth, at the cost of your being. By being I mean the consciousness that you are born with, and by mind I mean all that is accumulated, that has come to your consciousness through society, education, and through your cultures. You are not born with a mind, instead you are born with consciousness. And brain is the mechanism. Mind is a later growth. That is why if a person is not taught, if a person is not educated, then he is a lesser mind, a poor mind, an inferior mind. If no language is taught to you, you will not know any language. If nothing is taught to you, you will know nothing. Mind is social growth. I have heard there was a class of English, and it was not English, it was Hinglish. Hindi and English mixed. H-I-N in lish, from English. So these two words mind put together, and he said when the Indians speak English, it is not English, it is Hinglish. And that's why we call American English and British English, and that is in the language. So the teacher asked the student, make a sentence. The sentence was, a lady, we call the lady Miss. Everyone we call Miss. We give them a little pampering that you are still a Miss, not Mrs. Miss, the girl was standing downstairs. Standing downstairs, below. Below means under. So the teacher asked the student, make a sentence in English. Miss नीचे खड़ी है. नीचे means under, below. Standing, khadi. The student makes a sentence. Misunderstanding. What is this? The teacher asked. He said this is the translation of that. Miss niche khadi hai. Miss is standing downstairs. So Miss is first letter, Under is below, downstairs, and of course she is standing, she is not sitting. So it's not misunderstanding, it is misunderstanding. The word became misunderstanding. This is how the mind puts things together. Be aware of this. Consciousness is part of you, but mind is not part of you, because mind is given to you. The whole process of social cultivation, of social imposition, is to produce a mind in you. The whole process of social cultivation, of social imposition, is to produce a mind in you, a conditioned mind. That is why a Christian mind is different from a Hindu mind, because a Hindu society is feeding something different. And a Christian society is feeding something else. A Hindu society feeds one way, a Christian society feeds in a different way. A Mohammedan mind is totally different from a Hindu mind, or a Christian mind, or a Jain mind. But Hindu consciousness or a Mohammedan consciousness, but a Hindu consciousness or a Mohammedan consciousness or a Christian consciousness is not different. Now you look at it, Bhagavad Gita is one scripture, the message of Krishna. Hare Krishna looks at it in a different way. The interpretation is totally different. He is conditioned into their way, that Krishna is the supreme Godhead. No one is greater than Krishna, not even Vishnu, not even Shiva, nor even Brahma. All these are subordinate of God. Krishna is the supreme God. And when you look at the other Vedanti, the followers of Bhagavad Gita, they look at it in a different way, because they are conditioned in a different way. We do not look at the scriptures in their neutrality. The consciousness of Bhagavad Gita is one cosmic oneness. It should give the same meaning to everyone, same effect. But it does not happen. We are born and grew up in our own way. Really, a consciousness cannot be called Christian or Hindu or Mohammedan, but minds are. A Hindu mind, a Christian mind, a Mohammedan mind, a Hare Krishna mind, a different mind. So unless you go beyond your society, you are imprisoned in your upbringing. This mind which the society gives you, society gives to everyone, is a social necessity. Society has to give it to you. It is good as far as it goes, but it must not become an imprisonment for you, a binding. A moment must be attained where you are freed from your own mind, you are freed from your own conditioning. This is the first requirement of the seeker. People come to the master with their Christian mind, Hindu mind, or some other kind of mind. The first thing that the master does, frees you from yourself. Freedom from self. Freedom from your conditioning, so that you can breathe the fresh air. You can witness, you can have your eyes open to see the uncontaminated beauty that surrounds you. A moment must be attained where you are freed from your mind. Then mind begins to work as a mechanical thing in you. You can use it, but you are not identified with it. I am using mind, I am using language to communicate the consciousness, the inner serenity, the inner joy, the inner flowering, the inner light. Of course, for communion, communication, The words have to be used, the language has to be used, the nuances have to be there. One has to articulate all these things put together in order to create a musical harmony. There are various orchestras. All the orchestra have to work in harmony with one another to create a symphony. Beauty. Of course, one has to use language, one has to use mathematics, and how to coordinate how to bridge all these things together. A bridge where the people are coming from all directions is the essence of the seeker. You are standing at the roundabout where people from north, south, east, west, all the directions are coming and meeting. You can use these mechanical things, but you are not identified by it. You are not identified by it. This is the essence of a seeker. Essence of the seeker. Of course, one has to use language, one has to use mathematics, one has to know history and geography and everything. But it must not be identified with your consciousness. Consciousness is the supreme. You must remain a witness to it and all that happens in the mind. You must remain separate, unidentified and different from your own mind. This is what meditation means. You are doing everything, but you are a witness to all that you are doing, all that is happening, its results. Act is your duty, but the results are not in your hand. Meditation means how to be not identified with the mind, how to create a space between yourself and your mind. It is difficult because we never make any separation. We go on thinking in terms that mind means me and mine and I are totally identified. We are overlapping. If they are totally identified, then you will never be at peace, and then you will never be able to enter the divine, because the divine can be entered only when the social has left behind, when the outer is left far behind. Your journey begins when you completely detach yourself from all your attachments and you hop into the train that is taking you to your destination. You sit down unconcerned for at least 1 hour. No distractions. I am not going to be bothered with anything. I hop the train, boarded the train. Now the train will take me to the destination where I have to reach. Meditation means how not to be identified with the mind, how to create a space between yourself and your mind. It is difficult because we never make any separation. We go on thinking in terms that mind means me and my mind and I are totally identified, overlapping. If they are totally identified, then you will never be at peace, and then you will never be able to enter the divine, because the divine can be entered only when the social has been left far behind. Never it happens other way. When whatsoever the society has given you has been renounced, this is the real meaning of renunciation. Not that you have to leave this house and that house, you can live in the same house. All you have to renounce is that conditioning that society has given you, a conditioning that this is my house, this is my body. And Just imagine how many houses you have changed in your lifetime up to now. How many residences you have changed. How many cars you have changed. The car that you have loved once has become a source of trouble to you now. The husband, the spouse that you have loved and cherished so much, one without whom sun never rose, never set in your life, one talking about who you were never tired, now what happened? This is the abode of sorrow, the society that has given to you. Come out of that. When whatsoever the society has given to you has been renounced, only then you enter the divine, the other realm. Only then you enter pure consciousness. Mind is an overgrowth that must be put aside. By renunciation, I mean renunciation of the social and all that is associated with it. And your mind is nothing but a social byproduct. It depends on your conditioning, on your society. Mind can go on growing. Then you grow in knowledge, go on studying, go on learning new things, more things. You do a one study course, then you go into something else, because there is restlessness within. You finish this, what to do now? How will I get my time pass? Every evening I used to go to attend to this class. Now that class is over, I have finished there. What to do now? How am I going to pass my time? What am I going to do? So let us join something else. So you join something else. This is the realm of the mind. Why not join something that every day you attend a course, that you will sit down 1 hour all by yourself alone, not doing anything, not even meditation, just sit down watching the flower, that's it, not entertaining any thought. Why we don't take that course? That will lead you to something tangible in you. But when you go to attend a particular class, you are with the society, with the outer, the people, the same kind of environment, the same mental condition, the same type of people, in different color, different combination, thinking slightly different, but basically they are not thinking differently. They quarrel the same way, they talk the same way, their interests are same. There is no subtle interest in them. And a mind is infinitely capable of growth, Yet scientists cannot say to what extent the mind can grow. It can go on growing, and process seems infinite. It has so much potentiality. Million cells working in the mind, and a single cell has millions of bits of information contained in it. A single cell of the mind can have so much information stored in it, and the mind has 70 million cells in it. Like that, we are not using even a single cell's capacity ordinarily. We are not using a single cell's capacity, and we have 70 million cells, and each cell seems to be capable of infinite accumulation of information. The mind seems to be infinite in its own way, and it is not you. It is just something which has been given to you. It is useful. It is utilitarian. That is why we have become identified with it. We has to use one's mind. We has to use our mind constantly, and one has to use it so constantly that there is no gap. One class finishes, before that finishes, the study course finishes, you have already signed up for another course, so there is no gap. continuous, constantly things are, and one has to use it so constantly that there is no gap. You do not remember any moment when you were not your mind. You were not your mind, that is the problem. To remember it and to create a space, a gap, when you are not your mind, you are yourself. And mind is just a device which can be used or not used at your will. And you are the master to choose whether to use it or not. Ordinarily, the mind is the master and you have to follow it. The mind gives you something to think about and you have to think about it. The mind gives you some dream and you have to dream it. And the mind goes on and on. Sometimes, even if you say to your mind to stop, it is not going to stop. It is not going to listen to you at all because you have cooperated with it so much. And you have given it so much energy and identification that the mind does not remember your mastery at all. You are just a slave. Meditation means to create a gap so that you can become a master. Master of your own mind. And mastery means that you are not idle. I can order my hand to do anything, to move or not to move. Why? Because I am not identified. And I am not identified with the mind. I can allow it to move while I am talking. I can allow it not to move because I am not identified. Otherwise, who is going to order and who is going to be ordered? I can order my hand to move, it moves. But if my hand begins to move on its own, I say stop and it is not stopping, what will happen then? What does it mean? It means only one thing. My order is important because of too much identification with the hand. The hand has become the master in its own right. It goes on moving. I say I am not going to follow your orders at all. And it says, the hand says I am not going to follow your orders at all. Have you ever imagined a situation? When I say to you something, you say, I am not going to follow what you are saying. Whatever you are saying is just useless. If your hand and feet start telling you the same thing, what will be the situation of your chaos? What a chaos you will become then. You want the feet to move forward. The left and the right feet has to support one another. Right feet says, I am not moving. This is what we call paralysis. The right foot wants to move, but the left foot has not that movement, is not moving. There is no support from one another. You are hungry, you cannot put your mouth like a dog and eat the food. Your hand says, I am not cooperating. I am busy watching this show. This very interesting show. I am not going to feed you. You feed yourself. What will be the situation of you? You are identified with it that your hand has become master. It is not listening to you. You have allowed your mind so much freedom that it does not listen to you. For you, mind goes on doing its work without being bothered about it. If it goes on growing, one goes on more and more, hidden deep down, and the mind becomes such a great thing that it is difficult to assert your consciousness. That is a very ordinary villager with a lesser mind. And the mind becomes such a great thing that it is difficult to assert your consciousness. That is why a very ordinary villager with a lesser mind is with more consciousness. an ordinary person with very less education, not knowing much, has always, of course, less mind, but more consciousness. It will be of a tremendous beauty if you have a beautiful mind and beautiful consciousness too. Both are put in their right perspective. So sometimes a person who has more mind space may behave very foolishly because he has less consciousness. A person who has developed mind can work very wisely and behave very wisely if the situation is such that mind knows what to do and what not to do. Then he can behave, work and do everything very efficiently. But a new situation comes in which the mind is not aware, and it will act very stupidly, unwisely. He will that thou art. The seeker has to be aware of the mechanism of the mind. Not to identify is the way of the seeker. To go beyond this functioning of the mind is the way of the seeker. This is the dilemma that the seeker always finds. This is what he comes to learn in the company of the master, not to be identified with the society, with all that society has given, a mind, a condition, and to go beyond so that the being can begin to assert itself. The light of the being, the fragrance of the being begins to assume the form of words, the gestures. Then you are a seeker. When you are a seeker, then you can enter into the next realm, so that the process of the inner growth and the meditation begins. Only this much for this morning on this talk.